What's up, folks? Matty Willz checking back in with everyone for another brand new episode of Wellbeing Wednesday with Matty Willz, brought to you, of course, by the fine folks over at MetroHealth. For each episode, we talk to a different mental or general health expert about a wide variety of things, and that's exactly what we'll do today. So, without further ado, we'll bring in today's guest, Dr. Marsheena Murray, and there she is. How you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you so much first for just taking some time out. We know how busy you guys are, so it really means a lot to us and to our audience that you do take some time out of your day to kind of share your expertise with us. And today we'll be talking about setting boundaries for mental well-being. So before we dive into today's questions, I do like to let our audience know that, we didn't just yank you off the street. You are a doctor. You do work for MetroHealth. So just, take a few moments to tell everybody kind of your journey, what your role is with Metro, and how we got to today.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Marsheena Murray. I am a child clinical psychologist. I went to undergrad at Dillard University and HBCU in New Orleans, and then I got my master's and doctorate from Kent State in clinical psychology, and I've been with the MetroHealth system over 10 years now. So.
Wow. And this is completely off topic, but NCAA football just came out and I've been rocking with Kent State because I spent a little time there back in my 20s. I won't say that I'm an alum, but y'all can read between the lines on that. But yes, we are happy to have you. And again, we're talking about setting boundaries for mental well-being. We know that summertime, kids are home, there's a lot going on that can be stressful to parents and almost everyone. So, our first question today is, what are boundaries and why is it so hard for people, especially women, to set them?
That's a loaded question. So what boundaries are is kind of simple. It's a boundary is something that indicates a limit. And when we're thinking about relationships, boundaries can be that invisible line that defines like what behaviors are acceptable and what behaviors are not acceptable for an individual. So that's in a nutshell what a boundary is. It can be clear, but we kind of have to, it's something that we have to create for ourselves so that those around us can know. And I think it's hard for women to create boundaries and to stick to them for a lot of reasons. I think one of the main reasons is like women, if we think about, especially Black women, we have so many roles. We're wives, mothers, aunties, sisters, bosses, homeworks, helpers, listeners, the teacher, the therapist, the cook, the cleaner, the chef. And we have so many different roles as Black women, and we are taught that we have to be everything to everybody, right? And setting a boundary means I can't be, and I'm not going to be, and I'm not going to be able to do that. And not only are we expected to be everything, we're expected to be really good at it too. Just be this exceptional, super strong, super woman. And I think that really makes it hard for us as women to set boundaries. And in our nature, it's in our nature to be loving and giving and supportive and just really trying to be everything to everyone. And I think that's really what makes it hard for Black women to set boundaries that we need to protect ourselves.
Yes, 100%. I want to say every family, but I know certainly in mine growing up, my mom, my grandma definitely were the people that wore a variety of hats, and we allowed them and needed them as youngsters to kind of be everything that they were. Now I see that as a family man today. I see it in my wife and still in my mom, because I know that I hit her probably a little too much sometimes, but it is what it is. That's what moms are for. So what are the benefits of setting boundaries?
Really, one of the main benefits of setting boundaries is to protect your mental health, right? So if I'm going around and I'm being everything to everybody, I'm always pouring out of my cup's going to be empty. I might find myself struggling with mental health issues. And so in order to better protect yourself and your mental health and your sanity, I think setting boundaries is really important. And when we think about Black women, we know about racism and trauma and how those things really impact our mental health, which really have long-term impacts on our lives. So like, for example, while Black women are younger, in the US than white women, we have a higher prevalence of so many different health conditions, heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, obesity and stress. So it's so many things. And these things lead to us as Black women having a shorter life expectancy, right? And so it might seem like, oh, this is kind of far off. But when you think about something like we're talking about today, being able to just set boundaries with those people that we have different relationships with, it really could like prolong your life.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. She is Dr. Murray. I'm Matty Willz. And today we're talking about, setting boundaries and protecting your mental health and things of that nature. So what are some tips that you would share with people for assertive communication?
So when you're thinking about setting boundaries, assertive communication is key. So you have to think about how do you communicate, right? And so really communication goes across a spectrum. On one end is a person that communicates really passively. So like they don't speak up for themselves. They kind of let people walk all over them. That might be one side. The other side is being aggressive. So that means that loud, rah, rah, rah in your face. You're kind of getting what you want, but kind of at the expense of others, like at the expense of hurting other people, right? So those are two ends of the spectrum. And where we actually want to be in our communication style is assertive communication, which is like right in the middle. So I'm not letting people walk all over me, but I'm not really going to be a jerk either. I'm going to communicate what I want in a way that's helpful. But I'm going to be able to speak up for myself. So I think one of the first steps to being an assertive communicator is figuring out where you are on that spectrum. So you know if you like really passive and be quiet and don't say anything versus the person that's always, you're going to be the first person to speak up real loud and you don't know why people are offended so much, right? You might be on that more aggressive side. So figuring out where you are and then try to move your communication towards the more middle ground, being more assertive.
For sure. And then
knowing where you are and how you
being aware definitely will help you. And then you took me back to my grandma when you was talking with your hands on the more assertive side. That's definitely something that I've seen growing up back in the day. But Dr. Murray, we'll get you out of here with this. What advice do you have for those of us who struggle with taking on too much?
I think it's really important that you start to set boundaries. And one more thing I do want to mention about being an assertive communicator is that sometimes as a person of color, and especially as a Black woman, once you find yourself being assertive, you might be labeled as aggressive, especially in the workplace. That happens a lot. I think Black women are perceived to be a certain way. So even if we're just speaking up to ourselves in a very appropriate, assertive way, it might be viewed by others as being aggressive. And I don't want people to let that discourage them. I just want them to keep that in mind once, especially if you've been passive and you start being more assertive and speaking up, people might label you as being aggressive. Just know that is incorrect. So another thing is, for those that struggle with taking on too much, I want you to empower yourself to say no. Empower yourself to say no. That is a power that you need to execute, and you can't be everything to everybody. And I think whenever we're presented with things or things come up, if it's not an overwhelming, resounding yes, then it needs to be a no, right? Because we're too busy saying yes to please other people, and we're not thinking about what it is that we want. So only if you really want it to be a yes, should it be a yes. Otherwise, I want you to empower yourself to protect yourself and your mental health and say no.
Yeah, that's real. And I'll also just add, because even speaking for myself, I know I've come from a place where I might have been a little more meek, especially like in certain professional instances or situations. But then when you get to saying no every once in a while, or you start setting those limitations and those boundaries, then people come to expect that you might not just be a yes man or a yes woman. So that'll help you in the long run as well. I don't want to forget this call to action. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So talk with your primary care provider if you're feeling overwhelmed or struggling to cope. In addition to getting regular checkups and screenings, you can call 216-696-3876 to make an appointment, or of course, visit metrohealth.org/appointments. She's Dr. Murray. I'm Matty Willz. This was another episode of Wellbeing Wednesday with Matty Willz. Dr. Murray, you were perfect. Your answers were tremendous. And the one last thing I do want to mention, I mention this every episode. If you were watching this today and you know somebody who needs to hear these words, that needs to hear these instructions from Dr. Murray, please feel free to share this video with them wherever you see it. We know things on social media and the internet are always findable. So share this with your loved ones and your friends. And thank you for taking time out of your day and helping us all out with setting those boundaries.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I could be here.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon, I'm sure. This was another episode of Wellbeing Wednesday with Matty Willz, brought to you by MetroHealth. We'll see you guys soon.